welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be getting into my full review and 3 tutorials using the new Mini Zendo palette from Natasha Denona. So this palette is not officially available yet. She launched all of the images on Monday on her Instagram. So I was able to pick this up a little bit early, which I am so excited because it's very rare that I get to play with a new palette like this and give you my thoughts on it and a full review on it before it even becomes available. So I have to thank my friend Tracie from MakeupCraz. She is the one that hooked me up with this palette and I am so grateful. So Tracie, thank you so much. I will leave a link to her Instagram in the description box down below. She always has all of the new like makeup releases and she's up to date on everything. And I am just very grateful to her because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have this palette. So thank you so much, Tracie. So in the video, not only am I going to be creating 3 different tutorials with it, but I'm also going to be doing a lot of comparisons of this palette next to a lot of the Natasha Denona palettes that I have in my collection. As you guys know, I love the mini palettes. They're kind of my favorite from Natasha Denona just because they're a little bit smaller, they're a little bit more affordable, and it seems like all 5 of the shades always correspond really well together. By the way, it will be available online at Sephora on October 10th for those of you guys that shop at Sephora. Right now, while I am filming this, Natasha Denona put up on her Instagram page that you could pre-order this on her website. She's also launching this I Need a Nude Glow palette, which of course I will be picking up and doing a full review on it as soon as it's available. And she's also launching 2 new I Need a Nude lipsticks. So I think I have 2 or 3 of her I Need a Nude lipstick shades. So I will definitely be picking up these 2. So once these launch on the Sephora website, be on the look for my full review on the face palette and the 2 lipsticks. But for now, today's video is only going to be about the Mini Zendo palette. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into the 3 tutorials that I created using this palette. Then we will get into the swatches and comparisons, and then I will get into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Okay, so let's jump into a few tutorials using this new palette from Natasha Denona. I am going to do 3 looks with this palette. So I'm going to do 1 on each eye and then wipe it off and then do 1 look for like the intro and the outro and all of that. So this is a really pretty palette. It's actually, in my opinion, better in person than it is in the images that Natasha Denona released. So I'm going to first grab this lighter shade. I'm always curious if this will show up on my skin tone. It's showing up a little bit, but it's not showing up as much as I would have hoped. Let's move into this shade right here. And I'm gonna bring this here on this outer corner. I'm gonna take a pencil brush and I'm gonna go into the darker matte and bring that along the lower lash line. I think I'm gonna go into this really beautiful kind of purple shade. I'm gonna put it on dry first. You guys can see what it looks like dry. So putting it on with a brush, you don't get that much impact. I would recommend putting it on with a finger. That kind of shade just seems to be much better with a finger, because it does look really pretty over that matte. I was gonna do it as a halo, but it looks really pretty over that matte. So let's take a little bit on a blending brush and bring it all the way on top of this matte. Really pretty. So I'm just going to take a clean brush and just like buff everything out. Let's go into that really pretty silver and like place it right on top of the lid. So I'm just going to grab it here on my finger. I'm going to place it right there. Oh, that shade is gorgeous. I'm going to be swatching that silver with the Glam just to see if that silver is in the Glam shade, but that is so pretty. I like those colors just kind of mixed together just on the lid. It looks really pretty. I'm gonna take my flat tipped brush and I'm gonna go into that purple shade and I'm gonna smoke this into the lower lash line. You could even use that purple shimmer to kind of create a wing. It's really pretty. Okay, so this is the final look. I just went ahead and threw on a pair of lashes. I didn't get too, you know, tedious about it because I am going to be taking it off, but I just wanted you guys to see what it would look like with mascara and lashes and all that. And I love this. I think this is very soft, very, very wearable. And even though that shade is dark in the pan, you can lighten it up and kind of sweep it in the crease. And it blended really beautifully in the crease. And I like that shade. I was pleasantly surprised. So that's it for this tutorial. Let's go ahead and jump into look number 2. Okay, for this look, I want to focus on the silver. So we're going to start with this matte shade. And that shade is pretty pigmented and it's really pretty on my skin tone. Now I'm not too worried about this because I will kind of clean this up. So I will probably get rid of this lower. So I kind of make kind of a mess out here on the outer corner because I know I'm going to be cleaning it up anyway. Okay, now I'm going to bring that here on the outer corner. Now I'm going to take that smaller brush and I'm going to go into this darker color right here. Darken this outer corner with this shade. Now I'm also going to bring that purple on the lower lash line like I did in the last tutorial. But I'm keeping it right here on the outer corner. Now the nice thing about that purple, it's not super pigmented. So it's dark, but it's not as dark as you think it will be. And it really blends beautifully. That purple's really pretty. Now let's go into the silver shade right here and let's put that on the lid dry so you guys can see what it looks like dry. Now I'll go into it with my finger. Really push it into the lid. I'm gonna wet the brush because I really want to intensify it. So I'm gonna pick some up here and then I'm gonna spray it with some setting spray. I am going to go into this matte right here and blend it into the dark. Okay, so this is the final look for look number 2, and I love those shades kind of all blended together. Even though I use pretty much the same shades, I like both of these looks, and it just depends on the placement of the shadows, but I love how the mauve color really goes beautifully with, you know, the purples and the silvers and stuff, so I really like both of these looks. I really do. So that's it for look number 2. Let's go ahead and jump into look number 3, which is the final look. Okay, so so let's jump into the third look, which I'm personally excited about because I love a beautiful rose gold. I'm curious about this rose gold and how it differs from some of the other rose golds that I have in my collection. I think I'm just gonna use those two shades. If you cover these three shades, the two shades on the end kind of give me like a Charlotte Tilbury moment. So I'm excited to apply that rose gold. So I'm just gonna start applying the matte in the crease. I think that lighter matte is a little bit too light for me to use. It's a good like buffing shade. It's a good shade to kind of blend out this color, but it's too light to use as a transition on my skin tone. Now I'm going to go into a smaller brush and I'm going to pack this on the outer corner. And also on the lower lash line. Okay, so I kind of have that matte kind of laid down. I will go ahead and put more on once I get the shimmer shade on. So let's go ahead and grab this shimmer shade right here. I'm going to apply this dry first so we can see what it looks like dry. I will probably lay it down with a finger. Okay, let me try a different brush. Okay, so that shade just doesn't work with a brush. Let's go ahead and place it on with a finger. Okay, this shade's starting to get hard panned, so you can kind of see, because I have swatched it, so you can kind of see that it's starting to get a little hard panned. So the best way to kind of make a hard pan shadow work is to take a piece of tape and go over top of it. Oh, that rose gold is pretty though. Wet. Let's see what it'll look like wet. So I'm going to dip my brush down in there. Let's spray it. Okay, yeah, so that shade is much prettier when you apply it dampened. I'll probably use one of my highlighters as an inner corner. I don't know that I want to use that silver shade in the middle as an inner corner, but now that I have it on, it's a peachy undertone rose gold. So it's actually a really pretty rose gold. You just kind of have to work with the shade a little bit. So this is a duochrome shade. So it's really pretty. It's just a very, very thin formula. And because of the way it was created, it can get hard panned quickly. So, you know, keep that in mind. There's solutions for hard pans. You know, it happens in a lot of those type of shadows. Okay, so I am back. I threw on the rest of my makeup, a pair of lashes, and I paired this eyeshadow look with this shade from Charlotte Tilbury. This is in the shade Glowing Gen, and I seriously, like, this is the perfect shade to wear with this. It just matched perfectly. It had the perfect undertone, and yeah, if you decide to wear this eyeshadow look and you have the shade Glowing Gen from Charlotte Tilbury, it is absolutely perfection. So that's it for look number 3. Let's go ahead and jump into all of the swatches, and then I will get into my final thoughts. now that we've made it through the swatches and comparisons, let me go ahead and jump into my final thoughts. As you saw in the swatches, there are some similarities when it comes to all of the palettes that I have. I really like the palette. I think the only shade that I wish had a little bit more oomph is this one, because to get what I have on my lid, I had to really build it up. As you saw in the swatches, it's a little weaker of a shade. This is the Mini Retro palette. You guys know that this is probably one of my favorites. I love this little Mini Retro. These are shades that I really didn't know I needed in my collection. They're so beautiful. And I love the combination of these shades, which I never in my mind would have put these shades together. But once I did, I just loved the combination. This shade over here is a metallic shade, so it's much more shimmery, and it's got those crystal reflective looks to it. And this shade is a duochrome, so it's a little bit less impactful, and you really have to dig in there to get something from it. In order to get this level, you need to pack it on, and then once you have a good layer of it, you need to go in with like a brush and dampen it to really get it to shine. So it's a workable shade, but I wish it was a little bit more impactful, just a little bit, but it is what it is. Overall, I think this is a beautiful palette, and if you like this color story, I don't think you'll be disappointed in it. Is it necessary in your collection? Probably not, because you probably already have a lot of these shades in your collection, just not all in one palette, if that makes sense. So you probably have something similar to this. So like, for example, this is the Charlotte Darling palette. This is the Charlotte Tilbury matte. This is the Natasha Denona matte. This is the Charlotte Tilbury, the second shimmer shade in the palette. This is from Natasha Denona. And then this is the third shimmer shadow from the Charlotte Tilbury palette. So the reason why I'm showing you that is that if you were interested in this palette because of the rose golds and it kind of has that beautiful warm pink, then you pretty much already have that from the Charlotte Tilbury, Charlotte Darling palette. And, you know, it just depends on what you liked about this palette. If you have the bronze palette, this purple over here was very similar to the purple that was in this Zendo palette. And if you have the glam palette, the silver is very similar to the silver that is in this palette. It all depends on what you have in your collection and also what you were interested in this palette for. But overall, the pigmentation is great. Yes, I wish that this shade was better, and this shade is almost not really usable for me. Being that I have a medium skin tone, this shade is just not really that usable, which kind of stinks. You know, I think that's what I loved about the Mini Retro palette, is that both of these shades really packed a nice punch, and I was able to apply them and build depth within both of these shades. But with this palette, the only shade that I can really work with as far as the matte is this shade. So this shade, I would have preferred it to be either a darker matte or maybe like a metallic shade or something. If you have like a fair to light medium skin tone, this might work for you as a transition shade, but it is pretty light. So I don't know that it was necessary in the palette, to be honest. So those are my overall thoughts. Before I go, I wanted to put up an image of this palette from Natasha Denona versus the image that I took. They look very different in real life. So when I actually saw the image, so remember when I bought this palette, I was buying this palette based on an image that they took of the actual palette. So when Natasha Denona uploaded the picture today on the Instagram page, I was very surprised because it didn't look anything like what I had. It was, I think personally, this looks much better in person than it does online. So I hope that this image is helpful for you guys in case you were thrown off by the image from the actual Natasha Denona website. But that's it for the video. That's it for the review. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. Sound off down below. Let us know if you guys are going to be picking up this palette. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.